Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is I guess we can call it an AMA, a fireside chat. You use the verbiage you want between Vesper and Coinmetro. I'm Kevin Murcko. I'm representing Coinmetro. I'm the CEO here at Coinmetro. We've actually had a chat in the past with Vesper, and we're doing a bit of a follow-up here because they're doing some amazing things, and we want to make sure Coinmetro community and the Vesper community and everyone else knows what's happening at Vesper. So I'm going to pass the virtual mic over to Zane Huffman, the strategy lead over at Vesper, so he can introduce himself, and we'll take it from there.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for having me, Kevin. Yep. As you said, I'm Zane. I'm the strategy lead at Vesper. For our Vesper community members, I'm Green Jeff / Jeff the Baker. Once upon a time, everyone was anonymous online, and that's my screen name. I've been with Vesper since the start. I do a lot of the back end where we go out to find yield sources. I do a lot of the biz dev, how we route through other projects, some of the community engagement, a little bit of everything. And happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So just like, most startups or scale ups, you have one title and 20 hats. So
yep, exactly.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So we're going to jump right into some questions. I already have some questions that we took already from our various communities. So we're going to start there. If you're watching and you have a question, make sure you pop it in, whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or some other Twitter. I think we have like 3 Twitters running right now. LinkedIn, wherever you are, make sure you pop in your questions. We can see them here. We'll go ahead and answer them once we get through the questions that we received already, these pre-questions that people popped in before the show. So we'll start with the first one. I guess it's easy or hard, depending on how you look at it, but tell us a bit more about Vesper Finance for those that either don't know or maybe just came across you guys and don't really know what you do.
Sure. So at a super high level, Vesper Finance is a family of DeFi yield aggregating products. The primary user experience is you deposit a token, you earn more of that token. When you deposit a token, we go out and we find yield out in the Etherverse. We're on ETH, Mainnet, Polygon, Avalanche. We have some other more nuanced products that offer more specialized experiences where you can deposit a token, earn different tokens, a few different types of engagements, but the general theme is DeFi yield aggregation.
Okay, cool. So based on that, now obviously you guys aren't the only game in town when it comes to yield farming or yield in DeFi or pools, etc. So what would you say that kind of separates Vesper from any other or every other DeFi ecosystem that exists?
I think there's 2 main elements. The first one is our commitment to security. Everything we do where user funds goes out in the world goes through multiple audits before we ever do it. Our team has a long history in the crypto space. We're very well established. Vesper is designed to be bulletproof. The other element is our engineering architecture. We have very modular composable pieces, which makes it much easier for us to daisy chain operations together. We can more readily create more nuanced and complex strategies because the broader ecosystem is designed in a way where we can plug part A over here and put everything together. And I think both of those together more holistically positions us uniquely for different endpoints for protocols, custodians, institutions, exchanges like Coinmetro. A lot of projects where users deposit their money or interact with their coin, they want to offer ways where people can, where their users can get more yield, but they need 100% assurance that they're going to do that in a manner that's secure. And I think Vesper is uniquely poised for that.
Absolutely. Great answer. So leading on from that question, I guess talking about what Vesper does, is there something that Vesper is going to be doing, some project that may be coming out in the near or even distant future that you're super excited about?
Yeah, 2 things I'd like to talk about. Number 1, Vesper Synth. We are very near deployment on a multi-collateral, multi-mintage synthetic assets platform, meaning you can have all these different coins posted as collateral, and we can produce all these different synthetic outputs. The primary reason why we want to do that is because there are a lot of non-Ethereum native or non-EVM native tokens and ecosystems. And there's appetite for them to get access to DeFi yields, DeFi products, all that stuff. So we can do that. And there is not currently a major synthetics asset platform that does support multiple collaterals and multiple mintage. So we're really excited about that. The other thing I want to mention is more of a back-end engineering thing. Vesper has a lot of the engineering team at Vesper has a lot of background experience in managed nodes. And what that translates to is we have a lot of the tools that you need to go cross-chain. Deposit your tokens on the cheap chain, Polygon, Avalanche. It gets sent over to Ethereum or wherever the premium yield is. We're very close to putting that to production as well. We have that in testing and auditing right now. And that'll be great because obviously Ethereum mainnet gas fees are way too high, but that's still where the best yield tends to be. So you can stay on the cheap chain, you can manage your position, enter, exit, and you can still get the premium yield that typically requires premium gas to access it.
Yeah, and also where the liquidity is as well. Yeah,
so, where the liquidity is as well. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Very cool. So, I mean, you probably already somewhat answered this question, but since I have it on my list, I'm going to ask it anyway. So, Vespers it's obviously you're focusing on building new products. You're collaborating with these different DeFi protocols. But are you focusing on one? I mean, is there a general focus on one or the other, or are you focusing on both those? Meaning, are collaborating with DeFi and also building new products of your own?
Yeah, I mean, it's the easy answer, but it's both. Our engineering is focused on building more products, improving what we have. Obviously, Vesper needs to be sustainable. You need to be able to deposit your coin into a pool once, and it'll continue to go earn good yield indefinitely. So engineers focus on making sure our products are good, building out new products. Because it's so composable, modular, easy to integrate with, our entirely separate business development teams are going out and getting these integrations, where Vesper is kind of the DeFi middleware engine, so to speak, that powers different DeFi endpoints, institutions, custodians, all that.
Very good, very good. I just had this vision actually in the last couple of questions about kind of Legos, because obviously a lot of people listening, I imagine a lot of people that will listen, a lot of the kind of let's say vernacular that's used, well, not just in DeFi but in finance in general, kind of just shoots over lots of people's heads. But I think you can kind of think of Vesper as a building block system for finance, right? So it's kind of like Legos. So you can build a castle, you can build this, you can build anything you want, but you give the pieces that allow people to build these different products as well. Something like Coinmetro did with our Vesper staking, for example. Basically, you guys already did the heavy lifting. We can just connect a few Legos.
Exactly.
Nice and easy. So what's Vector's perspective on the future of multi-chain DeFi? So you talked a bit about kind of cross-chain. You talked a bit about what sounds kind of like an amalgamation of maybe wrapped assets plus yield farming, kind of being able to take liquidity from different chains. So where do you see the future of multi-chain and DeFi in general?
Yeah, I think Vesper is multi-chain enthusiastic. Like I said, we're on ETH mainnet primarily. We're also on Polygon, and we are in beta on Avalanche, and we're pushing towards production launch on Avalanche. I think looking at Ethereum and EVM land and non-EVM change like Luna and Solana, there's a lot of appetite for each of these chains. They offer a bit of a specialized experience, and I don't think that's going to go anywhere. Vesper definitely wants to be poised to service all these different chains. With that being said, beyond the multi-chain, our cross-chain ambitions mean that we can go to chains that don't necessarily have a big DeFi footprint. We can go to perhaps Harmony, for example, is more focused on play to earn gaming. So there might not be the same yield opportunities there right now, but that doesn't matter for us. We can still send it over to wherever the big DeFi hotspot is.
Exactly. So just based on this conversation, what do you think? I mean, right now, obviously, there is this kind of there's this world where there are many different protocols. We don't have a standard, obviously, yet. You can maybe consider Ethereum to be a standard, Solana to be a standard, but we don't have a standard, literally. And so I think I've talked a lot about protocol wars, where over the next few years, we're going to see a lot of different protocols fighting for dominance. So fighting in different niches, right? You might have finance, you might have trade finance, you might have all these different things that they're going to try and capture: securities, issuance, all these good things. So do you think, in a future where potentially we do start to have a smaller amount of protocols, so maybe the multi-chain aspect isn't necessarily so in your face as it is today, because there's a need for that as a service? Does Vesper have any kind of long-term views on whether, let's say we ended up with 2 protocols, that's it, and maybe cross-chain wasn't such a big deal. Are there already features you offer that you think would still shine and make Vesper attractive? And are there things that you would think about in the future if there wasn't the need for this, cross-chain so much, that wasn't a need by the community?
Yeah, I think we're situated for both futures. If there's always going to be a million chains, like I said, the cross chain will enable us to be able to service all of them without having to do so much work on each individual chain. Yeah. If all of DeFi does kind of coalesce on one destination, whether that's Ethereum mainnet or whatever else, going back to my prior comments in this chat, our composable modular backend means that every time there's a new DeFi endpoint where we can earn yield, we can just build out support for that one endpoint, and then we can match into everything else. We can take out a loan from Maker, send it into our DAI pool. Our DAI pool then figures out where those different strategy destinations are, and those strategies can daisy chain as well. And so if that's the future, I think that's one that we're definitely built around as well.
Okay, so I mean, good to know. The question was mainly to see, everybody has to think about future proofing, and I think in such a nuanced industry, future proofing could literally be next week. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be 10 years from now, right? But so it's good to know that Vesper is future proofed in that sense, depending on whatever the outcome has to be, either one of those or some hybrid of those two, and thus you guys are kind of prepared for that. So that's good to hear. So there was a previous question about kind of whether you're focused on these building new products or collaborating with other DeFi products. I'll throw a third out there. What about for collaborations like you have with Coinmetro, for example, like basically being that building block so that other businesses can build and obviously use your services as an offer out to their own client base? Is that also something that's on the agenda either now or in the future for Vesper?
Yeah, definitely. And we would love to, Coinmetro has Vesper stake, and we would love to have all of our tokens be offered on Coinmetro as well as all these exchanges. What we've kind of found, both with Vesper and with how the industry exists as a whole, DeFi yield aggregation is great. But if I'm an individual who is going out and doing my own DeFi stuff, it's not too hard now to understand how to go out and earn good yield. I think where our fit lies is, well, I'm a user on Coinmetro. I'm holding these tokens on Coinmetro. I can also go out and earn yield on it. That's definitely what we're looking to be. And that kind of goes back to the idea of being a DeFi middleware engine.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot to be said for convenience as well, especially in that, the learning curve for crypto a couple of years ago was difficult. It kind of was a bell curve. It went way up, and then once you figured it out, it fell back down. But the learning curve for DeFi for most people, especially with all the nuanced kind of terminologies, is difficult. People generally, I think, may try to understand the security and, not your keys, not your crypto, all these things. But it can be overwhelming. And in fact, it can be even more risky for someone not knowing what they're doing to try and get involved in DeFi directly. So having platforms and for Vesper, for Coinmetro and places like Coinmetro, that's amazing because we're able to offer a nuanced service, something that's nuanced with a learning curve and a much easier UX, et cetera. And for Vespa, obviously also amazing because there's way more than one, I mean, well, there's only one Coinmetro, that's for sure, but there's many exchanges, and over time, passive income is going to become a massive piece of the crypto landscape. And if Vesper can be well positioned to help lots of companies provide that with relative ease, then that's a big win for Vesper. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I'll my pre-stage questions here. I'm gonna end with one. Last one we have, which is, where can the Coinmetro community or the community at large, anybody who's watching right now, find out more about Vesper if they have a question that hasn't been answered yet?
Yeah, of course, you can go onto the website, vesper.finance. From there, you can get into the app and you can kind of play around and look at stuff yourself. The UI, UX, we've designed to be as straightforward and intuitive as possible. So you should be able to navigate it. And then beyond that, hop in Discord. From there, you can interact with the community, participate in governance, read up on what we've done recently, integrations, all that good stuff.
What's your Discord channel for Vesper?
Good question. And I should have had it prepped. You can find the Discord on the website.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, but anyway, even if you can't, you can always go to Coinmetro's Discord and ask where Vesper is, and I'm sure someone will direct you in the right place. So Perfect. If you're all part of our community already there, well, just ask somebody. So I'm going to jump into some community questions here. Normally, when I do this for myself, I just answer all of them. But when I have a guest on, I have to moderate a bit. So let's see. Give me a second while I pull one out here. Here we go. So this is from nobody in particular. Does Vesper have any plans to offer a wrapped KDA pool?
Yeah. Have not done too much research into wrapped KDA in particular. However, part of the composability aspect of our engineering is, if we have, for example, we support Compound, we support a bunch of strategies on Compound, we can then support any token on Compound. So if wrapped KDA is supported by any of our existing strategies, and we're routing through about 15 protocols right now, then we can support it. Or if WKDA isn't supported by any of those, whenever it is in the future, or if we expand to protocols where it is.
Yeah, I think this, I can answer this a bit, just to say that, I mean, you already mentioned, Zane, that one of your ambitions would be that not just Coinmetro, but other exchanges support, all tokens that exist in the Vesper ecosystem. And I think, and let's say this is actually a question to you. So for me, my ambition would be, obviously, we have a partnership with Cadena, just like we have a partnership with Vesper. We like to support what they do. And we're currently talking with them about building out a bigger ecosystem to help them, kind of support their own community, and getting some type of pool set up for WKDA or KDA for that matter would be good for us, good for Cadena, and I guess at the end of the day, good for Vesper as well. So with any of these new projects that are coming along for Vesper, any of the things you've been working on, including when I had the chat with Jordan, I remember there was Grow and these different kind of pool types, I guess, that Vesper currently has and was working on at the time. So is there something that would allow a Coinmetro, saying we're already kind of connected via those Lego blocks we talked about into the Vesper infrastructure, would we be able to launch a KDA pool at some point, just for Coinmetro in general? I mean, just launch the pool, connect to Vesper, and off to the races.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've started in the past maybe 2 or 3 months. We've really started to hunker down and expand our biz dev growth operations, and it looks like a lot more of those conversations. We have a handful of our newer pools. Our projects have come out to us and they said, hey, can you work with us? Can you make a pool? We can signal together. We can boost together. And that's what we want, because it doesn't matter if it's Vesper community assets or this external community assets going through our protocol. It all looks the same for us. So, whoever wants to use our products, we're interested in building to support them. Yeah,
and I would imagine, with the ambitions of being kind of cross-chain and finding liquidity, et cetera, the more platforms that are creating more pools through the Vespa infrastructure, the more liquidity that's created inside Vespa's network. So at the end of the day, kind of beneficial for all. So I think for us, this is something that we would like to do, not only supporting obviously other assets that Vespa supports, but also supporting some assets that our own community wants to see, either before, or maybe somebody else does it before us. But at the end of the day, we would want to do it. So I think it's something that Coinmetro might look into as well. Another quote. So Who Me Banana, it's a great name. Will there be any restructuring of income streams or expansion of income streams to support current or future yield pools?
Yeah. Income stream might be a little ambiguous, so I'm going to take it both ways I interpret it. One, in terms of what our revenue model looks like, what we found is Vesper has a performance fee, which is if the pool goes out and earns yield, we take a bit of that yield. And then we also have a withdrawal fee where once you exit the pool, we take a small cut. The withdrawal fee, it has been a big obstacle for people to integrate with us and for users who essentially don't want the experience of, I don't want to deposit and then I'm down out of the get-go. So what we will be doing in the near future is restructuring that into a single fee. And that fee will only be taken on the earnings, and it will be much more modest. We're going to take either 2% of what the end APY is, or half of what you're earning, whatever is less, which might sound a little complicated, but we have diagrams and pros to explain it. So that's happening very soon. In terms of expansion of income stream being how Vesper generates revenue, that just comes back to TVL. So having these increasing number of integrations and partnerships and us plugging into different endpoints is how we increase that TVL and expand that revenue.
Absolutely. Yeah, I heard about the withdrawal fee as well. I read that somewhere. I think that's a great step forward. I mean, most things in finance, traditional as well, when they start out have similar structures to where, because you never know as a financial product, you don't really know where where the flows are really going to, whether you're going to have more people concentrating inside of a product, you're going to have more people coming in and out of a product. And obviously there needs to be money made by the financial product, or you can't offer it. But it's great to see that as you guys are growing, that you're thinking about the end user and kind of the struggles or the constraints. So good to hear. I was glad to read that when I saw it. Hike the mic. Why should I buy Vesper right now?
Good question. I'm not going to advocate to buy Vesper right now because I think our lawyers' heads would explode.
So I'm going to rephrase Mike's question for him. So what type of value can I get? And I'm not talking about monetary. So what is the value that I would get right now? Why should I go and buy Vesper and interact with your interface versus buying DAI or any other, asset and interacting with their?
I think how I would approach this is, I've kind of explained that we're kind of restructuring or repositioning ourselves in what we want to do, how we want to increase our TVL. You can see that we've had some recent integrations that are starting to drive our TVL up in the right direction. And we're doing that in the absence of having to basically rent that liquidity with VSP rewards because it's more of a comprehensive package when we're integrating with some other endpoint. And so I would say if that's something that you're interested in, that you see value in, that you see potential in, that would make Vesper interesting versus some of our competitors. And in terms of why Vesper versus a stable coin or whatever, just generally speaking, interacting with Vesper, you can earn good, consistent yield that's sustainable, that is boosted to some extent. And if you hold the VSP token, you can deposit it and earn a share of the revenue as well.
Sure. I would add, since that, I'm on a different side of the business, so I think I can add this. I would add that in general, when you talk about stable coins, obviously it's funny to me. The stablecoin argument is a bit funny to me. There's a good argument for stablecoins that argument didn't exist 2 years ago. There's a good argument for stablecoins for several reasons. We're not going to get into that, but the fact that obviously everybody talks about how the dollar is a depreciating asset, how nobody should hold dollars, but there are people that decide to hold, not use as a transaction methodology, but actually hold stablecoins in their portfolio. Whether that is because they're getting yield on them or not is another question. But Vesper is not an inflationary asset. So, yeah, I think that's a good point to make.
Definitely.
Let's see. So, when will Coinmetro? So this is a Coinmetro question, but from Big Guy, when will Coinmetro start dropping more assets in Vesper pools? So yeah, we have I can't say we have a schedule as of yet, but we definitely have. I would say we're planning to build out a schedule, and we absolutely will be supporting and creating and working with Vesper more and more. We promised that in the first AMA. It took us a while to get the first product out, but now that we have, we're going to move much quicker to adding more pools. Maybe not every pool that Vesper supports, because we might not support some of the assets unless it becomes difficult for us to support the pool. But over time, we'll be supporting more and more, and I think we will be creating even some, like we had talked about with KDA, WKDA potentially on Coinmetro as well. So I would say the famous soon there, but definitely within 2022, you are going to see more and more Vesper pools on Coinmetro. That's for sure. Parika 92 has a question, maybe more than one, 2 questions here. Are funds in the growth pool invested directly to the earn pool? That's one. I'll read the whole thing and then we can jump back. For example, instead of using top yield earning platforms, Aave, Curve, Compound, you use some newer, riskier, but with higher yields platforms. So,
yeah. So I guess to structure the question, our grow pools is you deposit one asset and you earn more of it. It compounds. The earn pools are you deposit one asset and your yield converts to another one. And so the way that the earn pools work actually is it just routes through the grow pools. So we have our DAI pool, and then we have our DAI pool earn ETH. The DAI pool earn ETH just routes through the DAI pool. And then the engineering or the smart contract logic is applied on how the earnings are calculated and then converted to another asset. And that goes back to the composable element. So anytime, if we have a grow pool, we can make an earn pool for it. Simple as. And then in terms of what are we using for yield sources, everything that we interact with is secure, is high TVL, has a lot of time in the market, has gone through our own internal due diligence, and our strategies have been audited. Some of that does look like Aave, Curve, Compound. Some of it is a little more exotic, like Convex on top of Curve, for example, or some Compound forks, or lending off of Maker into some of these, or lending off of Compound, or leveraging Compound where you supply deposit the same, you loop the same asset over and over again to earn more rewards. And our distinction between our conservative and aggressive pools is the conservative is very, very tight around just the Aaves, Compounds, Makers, and the aggressive pools will integrate that Curve, Convex, some Compound forks, some more lending, some more leverage, some more borrowing. But all of it at the end of the day is conservative and secure and sustainable.
Very good. Thanks. Thank you for the answer, Zane, on that one. That was a good question, I think, and a good answer. So nice when they're both good. Sometimes you have bad questions with good answers. Sometimes you have good questions with bad answers. But I think we hit the ball out of the park on that one. J-Dog, I guess this is a question for me. Kevin, would the removal of the withdrawal fee affect your willingness to deposit assets into Vesper pools? No. In fact, I think, there's always this, when it comes to any business, there's always this kind of give and take of, if you charge more, do you make more money? For example, if you charge less, do you make less money? Normally, in most businesses, especially consumer-facing businesses, you charge more when starting, and you charge less to earn more over time. And so there is this, I guess, the kind of sexiness of a pool that's like a centralized version of a pool on a decentralized platform can sometimes be, gas fees, because you don't have to pay them because you can move in and out on the centralized platform, et cetera. And sometimes this withdrawal fee could also apply. But to be honest, I think, when someone's shopping around, if someone has the skill and the understanding of DeFi, they're probably going to go direct. Coinmetro is kind of, and I think other platforms that would provide access to something like Vesper are there for the people that either want the convenience, they either don't trust themselves to keep their own assets as secure as they should be, or they simply want a one-stop shop, right? They want to be able to go somewhere, maybe put some money into some Vesper pools, put some money somewhere else, trade a little bit, et cetera, and they want to just have it in one place. And I don't think the withdrawal fee being removed, for example, changes any of that. I think it's only benefit. I think it shows to me that Vesper cares about its community and that it understands that while it needs to make money, it can probably do better as a business by doing better towards its clients, which means listening to them. And, if there's some people saying, well, this fee, we don't like this fee, they got rid of it. I think that's amazing. So yeah. And we are, I guess, to a certain extent on in partnership with Vespa, but to a certain extent, we're a Vespa client as well. So for me, not having a withdrawal fee, as a client, I think it's amazing. Let's see. Trying to some of these. So this one I'm going to answer just because there's been a lot of posts from one individual, and I'm not going to post any of those posts here, but I'm going to post this one just to clear the air. So, asking how much I'm being paid by Vesper. So nothing. In fact, I don't get paid for AMAs. I do lots of AMAs and fireside chats with all kinds of companies. There's no payment made. We never ask for payment. This is about getting the word out about projects that we list, projects that we believe in, trying to help them give more benefit to their communities and trying to give our communities more benefit. Simple as that. So no, and if I was offered money, I wouldn't take it. That's not how we do business at Coinmetro. We are a business. Obviously, we need to make money. But if someone offers you money to do something, especially when it comes to something like this, we do this because we believe in the projects we list. Simple as that. It has nothing to do with the exchange of any type of value, whether that be tokens or cash or otherwise. So J-Dog comes back with a question. Jeff, you've already talked a bit about Vesper's upcoming fee restructure, but can you talk about revisions to the tokenomics, locking vvsp, loyalty rewards, and decentralization plan?
Mm-hmm, definitely. So the way that vvsp works right now is you deposit. There is a 24-hour lockup on that deposit to prevent some type of exploit parameters. But beyond that, you deposit VSP, you get a share of the revenue in more VSP that's been bought back, and there's no restrictions on that. And so what we see is that our APY does fluctuate on the revenue share, and this gives people the opportunity to hop in and hop out when it's good. And there's not really much of a requirement to be a long-term minded person in the ecosystem, which is what we want to prioritize. Other models in the market have shown that the Curves VE tokenomics work really well. However, they're not perfect. That's why Convex exists. Convex exists because people don't like that when you take a locked position in Curve, you're stuck to it. You can't get out. You don't necessarily get one-to-one with depending on how you vote and all that. And so Convex is entire business is built on top of making addressing the concerns people have about Curve's vote lock system. What we want to do with vvsp is transition it into some type of model that combines what Curve does and what Convex does into one, where users can lock up for some duration. They'll get increasing weight depending on their lockup, but they can also still have an ability to transfer it to other accounts, to potentially trade it on the open market, to potentially sell it back to the treasury with a fee. And that's what we're exploring right now. The engineering has just outlined a way we can achieve all that in a way that works and isn't too complex to the user. And in terms of the decentralization plan, there's a couple elements to it. One is automating as much as what we can automate. So ideally, everything that happens on Vesper is 100% autonomous. There's no human who has to do things. Right now, that is true except for two steps: polling APY calculations, and then taking those APY calculations and passing it into a rebalance action on the blockchain. We want to automate both of those, which can be automated. We have counterparts who are doing both of that. And that'll make it so the platform or the contracts itself can exist on their own. They don't need anyone. The other part is how Vesper continues to improve, to build, to grow, all that stuff. And what we think that looks like is differentiating the things we do into work streams. So you'd have an engineering work stream, a marketing work stream, a biz dev work stream, whatever, a growth work stream, a community work stream. And then having the token holders having some responsibility over how to assess what those work streams are doing, how they're compensated, how to kind of gauge if we want to bring in outside vendors to operate those things. So the decentralization plan looks a lot like removing the human element of as much as we can, and then for the parts that need to stay human, structuring it in a way that token holders have ownership of those conversations.
Just wondering in my head, based on that answer, well, the previous part of that, the beginning of that answer, actually, do you think that the removal of the withdrawal fee will add additional volatility to the APR, considering that you may have more short-term holders than maybe that withdrawal fee may have been limiting some people to move in and out when there was volatility in the APR? Do you think that'll have an effect? Do you expect it to have an effect?
Yeah. So we think that. Are you talking about APR for the VSP holders, right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think there's two elements. I think there is. I think it'll greatly reduce the volatility. Removing the withdrawal fee for the pools means that we're earning pretty consistently on our TVL across the board, and that won't really change. In terms of having it so there's a lockup element will reduce the float of VSP. So we have a more a less volatile or a lower velocity VSP coming in and coming out to earn that revenue share. And so I think both of those combined will give us much more predictable APR, which I think will make it easier for people to kind of better assess Vesper.
Absolutely. Very good. So another question from Big Guy. Are the VXYZ tokens really needed? Maybe I'm a brainlet, but it's just easier to understand without the VXYZ assets. I add them to my MetaMask, but I didn't do anything with them.
Yeah, good question. So the VXYZ tokens are kind of an accounting trick that pretty much everything in DeFi uses. When you deposit your different assets, your USDC or whatever, it goes into a contract, and then that contract sends it out to different contracts to earn yield and compound or convert if it's earned. The way to know how much of those tokens you control is by having the VXYZ token. It's basically a receipt saying I own this much percentage of the pool. And that's something that Uniswap V2 uses with LP positions. That's something that other vaults use. It's pretty common. It's not necessarily something you need to actively manage. When you deposit, you'll have the same number of V whatever after you deposit forever until you withdraw. What it does unlock that I would like to highlight is if you tokenize your position, you could also integrate it into something else. There could be a future where a VUSDC position is collateral for another token, and you can still earn yield on that collateral and go use it as something else. So it's a primarily an internal accounting trick, and secondly, it makes potential for composability with other destinations in the future.
Yeah. I think I usually say this when I talk anything about DeFi, but traditional finance, there's not much that DeFi does that actually doesn't happen in traditional finance. Obviously, there's elements of like decentralization and things like that don't happen in traditional finance. But there's things that happen in traditional finance that people just don't have access to. Well, most people don't, right? Unless you have 100 million on your balance sheet, you can't do something which in traditional finance, we would call a back-to-back loan, which is essentially using collateral to obtain collateral to then get a lower interest rate on a loan in a second country, and then actually loan that money out in a third country and make the difference. It's a very complex structure in what you can do now in DeFi with something very similar to what has been referred to as kind of an accounting trick. But at the same time, if you're able to in the future use that, let's say that receipt collateral as actual collateral, you can then, earn even more money without actually having to commit more funds into the ecosystem. And yeah, that happens in traditional finance all the time. It's just, most of us watching this have no access to these type of opportunities. And that's really what DeFi does. It brings opportunities to people, whether it's DeFi, CeFi, crypto in general, to be honest, brings a lot of opportunities to people they otherwise wouldn't have. So cool. I hadn't read up on VXY, so that was actually news to me as well. So interesting. So I think this will be our last question today. It was my fault. We were a bit late, but we were a bit late coming in, and I have a call in 5 minutes, so we're going to have to try and get this one wrapped up as fast as we can. But could Vesper make a pool to generate yield on an asset that doesn't currently have staking available, such as quant?
Yeah. So for whatever the deposit assets are, it needs some yield destination somewhere in the world that's greater than 0. However, we can make an earn pool where it pays out in that token. So, for example, we have in beta, we have a pool where you deposit DAI and you earn fractionalized CryptoPunk tokens. So you can basically yield your way into a punk. If it's the output, that's easy to do. If it's the input, it needs to have some yield source.
Yep. And a note on that one, I think at some point we're going to have a discussion with Vesper about margin collateral and us being able to create pools based on obviously yield paid as margin fees for margin collateral. That could be something like quant or any other asset that Coinmetro provides some type of margin lending on, could potentially be the source. We would just have to figure out from a technical angle how we do it, because right now those margin fees aren't, let's say they're not connected to any smart contract. We could do that, however, in order to help maybe create pools in the future. So that was a good question. But yeah, Vesper does have solutions, as Zane said, for creating pools that can pay in that same asset by way of just of lending and borrowing. So I think any asset, as speaking, broadly, could potentially interact with Vesper's protocol. I think that brings us to the end of our little fireside chat. I hope everybody got to ask their questions. And if you did ask a question and we didn't get to it, I do apologize. I apologize for being a bit late. Again, I'll take the mea culpa on that one. But if you have a question, you can definitely reach out to Vesper on their Discord channel, and you can head to their website. I was going to say website. They head to their website, which I believe is it Vesper?
Vesper.finance.
Vesper.finance. I was going to say IO. I just get used to those IO domains now. But Vesper.finance, you can find the Discord channel there. You can interact with them. If you have additional questions, if we missed your question, you can ask there. You can also come to Coinmetro and check us out, coinmetro.com, on Telegram. You can check us out on Discord. You can ask your Vesper questions there. And if we can't, or our community can't answer, we'll definitely point you in the right direction. So thank you very much, Zane, for stopping by today. Thank you for all the great answers. I even learned a few things today. That doesn't happen very often. So very much appreciate the time.
Happy
and
to help.
I'll leave the last few words to you. So go ahead and close us off.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for having me. Appreciate everyone for coming in, for tuning in, and make sure to hop into our Discord. And as a theme I kept going back to is we're trying to integrate and work with other projects. If you're a community member in these different projects that you think might be a good fit, absolutely speak up and get in touch with me or someone from the team, and we'll try to reach out and work with those projects.
Amazing. Can't wait to have the next fireside chat with Vesper and talk about all the new cool things you're doing a few months down the line. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and see everybody soon. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you.